Laurel had to act fast. She knew that the police would likely be at her home within days. If the police found the Bennetts credible, they could dig up the grounds once the snow melted. She would be sent back to the asylum or given the chair. In the day following the Bennetts dropping by, Laurel sold all of their animals. She even sold Nurse because she needed that money to flee. Kate begged her mother not to, but Laurel didn't listen. Evie was especially saddened to be selling the chickens. She loved to joke around with them. She didn't understand that soon they would be leaving the only house she has ever known. Laurel could see the desperation on her daughters' faces, but she sold the animals anyway. Kate tried to get her mother to listen to reason. She begged her mother to just leave she and Evie here, and their grandparents would come collect them in a few days. Kate could not outright ask her mother if she is responsible for her daddy being gone, but she did ask her if there were a specific reason they were leaving and asked why it was only the three of them. Laurel yells at her daughter and tells her not to ask questions she doesn't want the answers to. She tells both of her children that they will never see their father again, and that they needed to grow up. Nothing they said would ever change what happened. Kate surprised herself when she began to yell back at her mother. She called her mother evil and vile. She told her mother that her past would eventually come back to haunt her. Laurel simply laughed in her daughter's face. By the time they traveled to Willow Creek, Laurel was annoyed that her children were upset and crying about leaving their home. Kathleen was absolutely devastated by the whole ordeal. She would likely never see her grandparents again, and her father was gone. She feared for her own safety since her auntie and daddy were no longer there to take the brunt of Laurel's abuse. Evangeline was confused and frightened. She did not really understand what was going on, but she was in a new place and her daddy wasn't with them. She wanted to go home. All that Laurel could afford was a small one-bedroom house. She only had enough space in the room for she and Evie to sleep, so Kay had to sleep on the couch. The house was poorly insulated and freezing, so the fire always had to be ablaze. Although their circumstances were grim at the moment, Laurel knew she had to keep her favorite child happy. If she didn't, Evie would start to despise her like Catherine did, and she could not afford their fight right now. So she baked her a cake for her birthday. They did not have enough money for the ingredients, but Laurel got creative with her excuses so people pitied her. She began to question why she took the children with her in the first place. Happy birthday, Evie girl. Evangeline's childhood trait is that she is emotional. Catherine could only fit a few books in her bag when they fled, so she read those over and over again. Laurel had not enrolled the girls in school for fear that they would reveal why they were hiding all in Willow Creek. This made Kate sad. After several months of barely surviving, Laurel went into labor. She had dreaded having this baby because it would be one more mouth to feed. Once she had the baby, she would use her physical attributes to make money. Laurel had not missed her husband once in the time since he had been born. She missed him while she was giving birth. He had been so gentle and comforting during the births of Kate and Evie, and she really needed it now. She felt really alone as she gave birth alone in front of the fireplace. Hopefully this baby would give her a newfound happiness and strength to keep going. She gave birth to another baby girl. Welcome to the world, baby Judith. Laurel held little Judith in her arms. The child was a spitting image of her father. Laurel wished that Nathaniel could have been there to witness the birth of his daughter, as she could not send a letter to him in fear that it would be intercepted by Agatha. Kate felt devastated when her family forgot her birthday. They had been living in Willow Creek for over a year, but it was as if time stood still there. Her daddy would have never forgotten her birthday, She missed him every day, but especially today. Kate was not allowed in the home during the day if Laurel was at home, so she spent her birthday outside in the cold. She cried and hoped for better days as a teenager. She prayed that the 1920s would bring her happiness. Catherine's teenager trait is that she is warm-hearted. Her teenager aspiration is that she is friend of the world. One friend would be enough for her at this point. The relationship between Kate and Laurel worsened after she aged up into a teenager. Laurel threw out elusive tidbits of information about Edmund's passing, almost as if she were taunting her daughter with the knowledge. Catherine had finally had enough. She finally uttered the words out loud that she knew her mother was responsible. She told her mother that she wished that she were the one that was gone. She told the woman that she hated her with every fiber in her being. The words struck a chord with Laurel. She was used to having complete control to everything in her life, and she realized in that moment she could no longer control Catherine. For the first time, Laurel laid hands on her daughter. She tells Kate that she did not receive the same fate as her father only because she found her useful. She emphasized that this fact could change at any moment, so she should watch herself. Laurel left and went to town after their argument. Kate felt so stuck. She couldn't stand by and allow her mother to wreak havoc on her anymore, but if she didn't, she would be next to her father wherever he was. She cooked and cleaned for her mother and the girls. As if nothing was wrong, she had to get away from here. She thought of the boarding school that she and her daddy used to talk about. Maybe she could seek solace there. The only thing holding her back were her sisters, Evangeline and Judith. She loved them so very much that they were young enough to keep quiet and obey Laurel. Laurel did not despise those children. They would be okay. Evie knew how to keep the peace with their mother and did not know what she did to their father. They could live a relatively happy life with their mother if Kate was out of the picture. And if Kate left, she would be one less mouth to feed. Little Judith was so small for being a year old. She was a sickly and miserable little girl because she did not get enough to eat. Kate loved her sister and knew she would be fed properly if she were no longer in this house. Judith was practically her own child, or at least it felt that way. She took care of her, fed her what little she could, and gave her love. As much as it would hurt to leave the child and Evangeline behind, she knew they would be better for it. Their mother would be happier with Kate out of the house. Kate fell asleep in her bed that night, but it was a restless sleep. She could not manage her racing thoughts. She had to get out of this house for the betterment of everyone, including herself. In the wee hours of the morning, she wrote a letter to the admissions board of the New Crest Academy for Gifted Girls. She wrote a beautiful essay about family and loss. It made her emotional writing it all down on paper. She would be able to access the money Edmund left behind for this purpose. She read in his letters to her grandmother what bank it was located. She did this for her daddy because she knew he believed in her. After 6 agonizing weeks, Catherine finally received correspondence back from the New Crest Academy for Gifted Girls. The admissions board stated that they were taking a chance on her because she had not had formal schooling in years, but she was accepted. Catherine stood by the fire and felt the hurt and the anger from the last few years melt away. She was going to make something of herself, and she was going to make her daddy proud. Kate built a snowman with her sister finally. Evie had been asking incessantly for weeks, but Kate had been too nervous to do anything except wait by the mailbox. She was nervous to tell her sister that she was leaving. Although they were two completely different people, different interests and aspiration, they were incredibly close due to the circumstances of their lives. Evie would be the eldest daughter now, and she hoped that didn't trigger Laurel. She made Evie promise not to tell their mother until she had a conversation with the woman. Evie agreed, so Kate shared her news with her little sister. Evie was shocked and sad that her sister was leaving, but overjoyed she had this opportunity. On the day of Kate's departure, she finally asked her mother to sit down for a conversation. Kate asked Laurel if she could make a promise to her. She vowed to stay away forever. If the girls would be safe and cared for, she would never say a word of Edmund's disappearance. Laurel promised that she would do her best. She tells Kate that it will bring her great joy to never see a pathetic waste of space and grate of a daughter ever again. Kate responds that the feeling is mutual and she hopes Laurel will never find true happiness. Kate fed her baby sister one last large bottle before she left for the Newcrest Academy for Gifted Girls. She hoped that Judith would grow up to be big and strong despite the cards she has been dealt in life. She cradled Judith in her arms and repeatedly tells her how much she loves her. Laurel had never once said, "I love you" to any of her children, so she wanted Judith to hear those words at least once in her childhood. Kate changed into her new high-fashion clothes that she purchased with the remaining money from her daddy's education fund. She gave herself an inspirational talk in the mirror. She was enough and she could do this. She shed several tears before she walked out of the door to her new life. She was happy to be rid of her wicked mother, but prayed that her sisters would be okay without her. Catherine opened the door to the outdoors and began walking away from her old life, full of trauma and sadness, and towards her new life, full of endless possibilities and chances for happiness. It took Catherine 3 days to successfully make it to the Newcrest Academy for Gifted Girls because of a snowstorm that had halted all trains from departing. She slept inside the train station for 2 days, but didn't mind. She had finally arrived at her new beginning. Miss Caroline was the keeper of the girls at the academy. She was tough on them, only because she wanted to see them succeed. On the morning that Catherine arrived, Miss Caroline announced that breakfast was ready, and then promptly introduced Kate to the girls that she would be living with for the next few years. A few of the girls gave her weird looks like she didn't belong there, but most of them flashed Catherine warm smiles and welcomed her to the academy. Breakfast was eerily quiet that morning. Kate did not know if this was normal or if the girls were quiet because they were sizing up the new girl. Kate found the entire ordeal very intimidating. She felt out of place, like a small fish dropped into a pond with piranhas. She desperately hoped she would fit in and excel here. She hoped she didn't make a huge mistake. All of the girls were extremely welcoming except for one, Genevieve Landgrab, of the Landgrab fortune. Kate didn't know what she did to offend the girl, but it would be a grave mistake to make an enemy of a Landgrab. Catherine excelled in the lost art of ballet. She took to the dance very quickly and found that it was very calming for her when things got overwhelming. She was a natural talent in all things artistic, including singing despite her minor speech impediment. The first year of Catherine's stay at the Newcrest Academy for Gifted Girls was mostly uneventful. She was trying to keep up with her studies and exceed all expectations that were placed on her wench. He was admitted. She mostly kept to herself. She did not speak to others unless spoken to first and did not accept invitations to go out on excursions with the other girls. Her daddy told her that she was destined for great things and she wasn't going to ruin her opportunity. Katie still felt as though she didn't belong at the Newcrest Academy for Gifted Girls. She was intelligent and received incredible marks on her work, but she didn't let anyone get too close, so her classmates found her strange. She decided that her life needed some excitement. She could have both a social life and still be able to make something of herself academically. Let's face it, Catherine was lonely and missed her sisters. 2 girls that Kate wanted to get to know were Janine Richards and her best friend Vivian McNeil. She liked that Janine was fearless and carefree. She also liked that Janine was fiercely protective of her friends, especially Vivian. Kate was a very observant young lady and prided herself on being able to read people. She took note that Janine always sat next to her since the very first day Kate arrived, as if warding off the nasty girls like Genevieve Landgraf. Kate finally got up the courage to speak to Janine during their independent study time. She felt scared of rejection and judgment, but she desperately wanted a friend. She wanted someone to care about her and to care for in return. Janine was warm and broke the ice with humor. The girl was brash and even vulgar at times, but Katie liked that about her. She wasn't afraid to be herself and liked to make others laugh. Vivian seemed like a lost puppy that followed Janine around to some, but Kate saw the complex dynamic between the duo. Kate had heard rumors that Vivian was incessantly bullied for her weight when she first arrived, that Janine bullied the others right back. From that moment on, the girls were inseparable. Kate's heart swelled with happiness and validation when Janine and Vivian agreed that they liked Katie and wanted to be her friend. Kate wanted nothing more to join their group. And just like that, Kate became part of the group. The olive branch extended to other girls at the academy such as Nora and Winifred. The only girl who could not say a nice word to Kate was Genevieve. Regardless, Kate finally felt happy and accepted by her peers. Winifred became Kate's ballet partner when they had downtime away from their studies. Winifred was 2 years older than Kate, so she became a mentor to her. She learned many new ballet techniques from her. Winifred was soft-spoken but nice to her. The weekends were Kate's favorite time because she didn't have to think about school and got to spend time with her friends. Janine taught her a few card games and they gambled with household chores. Kate had a blast. Janine and Nora liked to talk about boys. Kate had been confused because the academy was for girls only. Janine explained that there was a secret spot where they would sometimes sneak off to. This spot was frequented by boys from the Newcrest Preparatory School. Janine vowed to take her. Soon, that day came a few weeks after their initial conversation. Janine passed Kate a note during class that said she needed to dress in her fanciest outfit and to meet her at the flower shop at dusk. Kate did exactly this, but felt nervous and unsure of what to expect. Kate asked her friend where they were and what was planned for the evening, but Janine was elusive with the details. She simply repeated the phrase, "let loose and have fun." Kate demanded to know where they were going before she followed the girl blindly, so Janine whispered that they were going to break some rules tonight and go to a speakeasy. Kate was nervous yet excited. She had been a stickler for the rules for nearly 2 years, but realized she had cut fun out of her life since her daddy's passing. He would want her to enjoy life, and so she opened the secret door to the speakeasy. Katie experienced many firsts that night. She tried alcohol for the first time. She felt so scandalous since alcohol had been banned in Newcrest, but it tasted strong and she liked the way it made her feel. She also tried a ciggy for the first time. She had previously vowed to never touch the addictive stick because of the dependence both her parents had on them, however. Peer pressure got the best of her and Janine convinced her to try it just once. Most of the girls from the academy joined them on their rendezvous to the speakeasy. Nora was a frequent visitor. Winifred had been a few times, and Bethany was a newcomer like Kate. Bethany was a timid girl, so she worked on assignments instead of partaking. After about an hour of being at the speakeasy, the boys from Newcrest Preparatory School joined them. Janine and Vivian knew most of the boys and were even friendly with some of them. Alex Potter was one of those boys. Kate felt as if her whole world stood still when Edison Moulton walked in the door. He was the most beautiful man she had ever seen. Kate knew she had to be calm and collected if she wanted a chance to get to know him better. He seemed amused that there was a new girl to flirt with, so he asked Kate to play cards with he and Francis. Kate was grateful that Janine had taught her all the tricks to be good at cards because she beat both of the boys multiple times. There was certain flirtatious way with the way Edison spoke to her. She was inexperienced with bows, but could read people well. After they were finished playing cards, Edison insisted that he buy Kate a drink because he had found a worthy poker partner finally. Kate felt butterflies in the pit of her stomach because Edison wanted to spend more time with her. Edison was a year older than Kate. He came from little means but was determined to make something of himself. He wanted to be a famous actor in silent films. Kate admired his ambition and could see his handsome face on the big screen. Genevieve was determined to knock Kate down a few pegs. She couldn't stand the girl, and so she flirted with Edison. He was arrogant and a bit dumb, but Genevieve only needed to steal him away from Kate for a little bit. Edison liked attention, so he flirted back. Janine flirted with Francis. She has had a crush on him for 2 years. He was friendly with her, but she could always tell he was holding back from being himself. She knew it was frowned upon to date a man of color by those in high society. It was still illegal in some places, but Janine didn't care. She knew who she wanted, and it would always be Francis. The girls at the academy insisted that Kate get up on stage and sing them a song. They were impressed by her voice in music class. Kate was hesitant but agreed. Kate lost herself in the music once she was on stage. It was in that moment that she knew what she was destined for. She felt the high from being able to captivate the audience by only her voice. She belonged up on a stage. Her mother was wrong about her. Kate and the other girls made their way back to the academy as the sun was beginning to rise. Kate had never felt more alive than she did that night. Once she and the girls were home, Kate profusely thanked Janine for convincing her to come. She had so much fun and wanted to go again sometime soon. Janine asked Kate about her conversation with Edison, and Kate erupted with a giddy tale of the crush she was starting to form on him. Kate was absolutely smitten and had already envisioned their lives together in Del Sol Valley. Janine could only laugh at the silliness of her friend. Kate climbed into bed as the sun was coming up. She could get a few hours sleep before she had to wake up for study time. She dreamed of Edison's bright smile that night. Genevieve rocked in the chair after everyone had turned in for the night. She would make Edison hers soon enough. That part was easy. She had to destroy Kate for replacing her as top girl in school. What would Miss Caroline think of Kate sneaking out and staying out until the early morning hours?